Hey everybody, welcome back. We're reading the Quran, and we're at Surah 54, and this is titled Qamar, or the Moon. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. The hour of judgment is nigh, and the moon is left asunder. But if they see a sign, they turn away and say, "This is but transient magic." They reject the warning and follow their own lusts, but every matter has its appointed time. There have already come to them recitals wherein there is enough to check them. Mature wisdom, but the preaching of warners profits them not. Therefore, O Prophet, turn away from them, the day that the caller will call them to a terrible affair. They will come forth, their eyes humbled from their graves, torpid like locusts scattering abroad, hastening with eyes transfixed towards the caller. Hard is this day, the unbelievers will say. Before them the people of Noah rejected their apostle. They rejected our servant and said, "Here is one possessed," and he was driven out. Then he called on his Lord, "I am one overcome. Do thou then help me." So we opened the gates of heaven with water pouring forth, and we caused the earth to gush forth with springs. So the waters met and rose to the extent decreed. But we bore him on an ark made of broad planks and cloaked with palm fiber. She floats under our eyes in care and recompense to one who had been rejected with scorn. And we have left this as a sign for all time. Then is there any that will receive admonition? I think Noah's kind of lucky that he kind of got to be in the ship with a bunch of animals. I'd rather be in a ship with a bunch of animals than a bunch of people. But how terrible was my penalty and my warning. And we have indeed made the Quran easy to understand and remember. Then is there any that will receive admonition? The Ad people too rejected truth. Then how terrible was my penalty and my warning. For we sent against them a furious wind on a day of violent disaster, plucking out men as if they were roots of palm trees torn up from the ground. Yea, how terrible was my penalty and my warning. But we have indeed made the Quran an easy to understand and remember. Then is there any that will receive admonition? The Thamud also rejected their warners, for they said, "What? A man? A solitary one from among ourselves? Shall we follow such a one? Truly should we then be straying in mind and mad. Is it that the message is sent to him of all people amongst us? Nay, he is a liar, an insolent one." Ah, they will know on the morrow which is the liar, the insolent one. For we will send the she-camel by way of trial for them. So watch them, O Saleh, and possess thyself in patience. The she-camel. And tell them that the water is to be divided between them, each one's right to drink being brought forward by the suitable turns. But they called to their companion, and he took a sword in hand, and hamstrung her. Ah, how terrible was my penalty and my warning. For we sent against them a single mighty blast, and they became like the dry stubble used by one who pens cattle. And we have indeed made the Quran easy to understand and remember. Then is there any that will receive admonition? Hey, they repeated that. The people of Lut rejected his warning. We sent against them a violent tornado with showers of stones, which destroyed them, except Lut's household. Them we delivered by early dawn. As a grace from us, thus do we reward those who give thanks. And Lut did warn them of our punishment, but they disputed about the warning, and they even sought to snatch away his guest from him. But we blinded their eyes, they heard, "Now taste ye my wrath and my warning." And early on the morrow an abiding punishment seized them. So taste ye my wrath and my warning. And we have indeed made the Quran an easy to understand and remember. Then is there any that will receive admonition? To the people of Pharaoh too aforetime came warners from Allah. The people rejected our signs, but we seized them with such penalty as comes from one exalted in power. able to carry out his will. Are your unbelievers, O Quraysh, better than they? Or have they ye an immunity in the sacred books? Or do they say, we act together, can defend ourselves? Soon will their multitude be put to flight, and they will show their backs. Nay, the hour of judgment is the time promised them for full recompense, and that hour will be most grievous and most bitter. Truly those in the sin are those straying in mind, and mad. The day they will be dragged through the fire, on their faces they will hear, taste ye the touch of hell. Verily all things have we created in proportion and measure. And our command is but a single act, like the twinkling of an eye. Like a twinkling of an eye, single act, like so fast, in the blink of an eye. And oft in the past have we destroyed gangs like unto you. Then is there any that will receive admonition? All that they do is noted in their books of deeds. Every matter small and great is on record. As to the righteous, they will be in the midst of gardens and rivers, in an assembly of truth, in the presence of a sovereign omnipotent. Assembly of truth, in the presence of a sovereign omnipotent. Sometimes, like, a good way for me to connect with that is sometimes God can feel so abstract, right? People might think, well, I won't be too impressed. But sometimes it helps to think about, what if you were in front of, like, somebody who you truly admired? It's not the same at all. God's beyond that level. You can't really compare it. But I think it's like a fraction of a degree, right? A percentage of a degree where you can feel like, let's say I was in front of Sulla of Rome. I'd be terrified, right? I'd be afraid. But at the same time, you'd be like, wow, this is crazy. This is scary. It's like an imperial power of someone who can smite you if they want, right? And you're like, you need their mercy, right? So it's like God is kind of like that, but not in the same degree, right? Different. And indeed, no imperial emperor is omnipotent, right? But I'm just talking about like this energy that radiates from a powerful person, like a powerful person. And God is not a person, right? But when you talk about being in the presence of something so powerful, it can kind of be like that, right? Of something you respect and admire and crave and desire to be around. You know what I'm saying? I hope that kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's a good one. The people of Lut, the people of Noah, the people of Thamud, all rejecting signs. Dark times, family. Dark times, don't you think? It mentions admonition a lot. It really does. To listen and take your advice and take the warnings. Everything's recorded. Deep. Especially now. Alright, family. Have a good quarantine.